After much anticipation, Gemini is proud to present our flagship standalone player, the SDJ-4000. This 4-channel standalone player will exceed the DJ demands of today, featuring 2 internal USB players with all the controls you'll need right at your fingertips, plus external channels for turntables, CD media players, or even electronic instruments such as synths, samplers, or drum machines. We will begin with the SDJ-4000's rear connections. On the far left, we have the power switch to turn the unit on and off. Next is the IEC port. Connect the provided IEC power cable here and connect to a grounded power outlet. Next is the link port. Connect an Ethernet cable to other Gemini players such as another SDJ-4000 or MDJ-900s. This allows for sharing audio files between devices and can also sync BPMs. Multiple units can be connected with an Ethernet switch. To the right of the link port is a USB port for MIDI connection. Connect to your Mac or PC to control DJ software via USB. Next we have the master outputs. Connect the balanced XLR outputs or unbalanced RCA master outputs to your amplifier, powered speakers, or PA system. Be sure to make all connections and turn the SDJ on before turning on your speakers to avoid noise and pops when connecting cables or powering on the unit. There are also unbalanced RCA booth outputs as well. You can plug these into your booth monitors, enabling separate control of the main output for the front of house versus what you hear in the booth. Next are the RCA inputs. Channels 3 and 4 are for external players, like turntables, etc. If using turntables that don't have an internal preamp, you'll need to switch to phono and connect your turntable's ground wire to the ground post if you're hearing noise. Channels 1 and 2 can be used for external players in place of the internal decks. Lastly, we have the microphone inputs. Mic 1 is a 1/4 inch input and mic 2 has a combo 1/4 inch XLR balance jack. On the front of the unit, you'll find 1/4 inch and 1/8 inch headphone jacks for queuing and monitoring. To best utilize the SDJ-4000's functions, it is recommended that you prepare your tracks beforehand in vCase, our free DJ library software. You'll be able to perfect your beat grids as well as add hot cues and loops to your tracks that can be accessed once loaded onto a deck. We will go over vCase in a separate video linked below. Now let's take a look at the SDJ-4000's main control surface. Once you've prepared some music in vCase, you'll export to a USB stick formatted to FAT32 and plug into the SDJ-4000. Select USB 1 or USB 2 depending on where your drive is connected and click Browse. You will see your vCase prepared tracks. Use the navigation knob to select and Load 1 or Load 2 buttons to load to the corresponding deck. When in browse mode, the Settings button will allow you to sort your tracks by BPM, key, genre, etc. If you have other players connected via Ethernet link, you can use the Link button to access tracks from a connected player. When a track is loaded, you can use the Views button to toggle between horizontal and vertical waveform display. Once a track is loaded into a deck, you can use that deck's functions to play and manipulate playback. If USB is disconnected during playback, that deck will enter emergency loop mode, setting an auto loop so music will continue playing while you get your next track ready on the other deck. Each of the 4 channels have identical channel strips with the following functions. Gain adjusts the track's input volume, pre-fader. High adjusts the channel's treble frequencies. Mid adjusts the channel's mid-range frequencies, and low adjusts the channel's bass frequencies. FX mix, this utilizes the fast effects functions, more on that later. Q button, select to hear that channel in your headphones. And the A through B switch activates crossfader functionality. Through disables the crossfader for that specific channel, and A or B will tie the channel's volume to the crossfader. And then we have the channel fader. This determines how much of that channel is sent to the master outputs. For those new to DJing, here's a couple DJ terms to keep in mind. Queuing. Queuing is the act of listening to a track before you play it for the audience. This allows you to do some preparation to make sure it plays well with what track you currently have playing. Use the cue buttons on each channel strip to hear what's happening on any given channel. Beat matching. This is the art of playing 2 or more songs at the same time while keeping their tempos aligned. This is the main skill a DJ needs in their arsenal and requires practice to perfect. If you've prepared your songs ahead in vCase, you can use the sync feature to snap the 2 tracks together. These tracks will now play in sync with each other. You can use the platters or pitch adjustment buttons for precise adjustments. Effects. The SDJ-4000's effects units can add color and life to the tracks you're playing, allowing you to manipulate your sets in a creative way. Fast effects. In the center of the mixer, you can select which fast effect you'd like to use: filter, chop, noise, or flanger. Once selected, you can turn the effects knob left or right to add that effect to whatever is playing on the corresponding channel. Turning the knob clockwise will have a different parameter than counterclockwise. Master effects. On the upper right-hand section of the SDJ-4000, you'll find the master effects section. These effects can be applied to individual channels, the crossfader, microphone inputs, or even the master output. Use the source knob to select what gets affected. Effects info will be displayed in the center of the screen. The effect knob allows you to scroll through the effects presets. And the parameter and dry and wet knobs allow you to fine-tune the effects. And then the FX on button will turn the effects on. For best results, use effects sparingly. Less is more. The SDJ-4000 has many different playback modes that you can customize to your personal DJing preferences. Sync. As mentioned before, this will lock the beat grids of your two tracks together so they stay in sync while playing. Use the master button to determine the master track and use the sync button to snap the other track to the master BPM. Slip mode. This will allow you to manipulate your tracks via looping, scratching, slicer, etc., and will snap the track back to where it would have been had you never made those manipulations. This allows you to get creative with your playback while keeping your tracks on the grid and in the groove. Reverse. This button will reverse the deck's playback. Vinyl. When turned on, the jog wheels will act like a vinyl platter, allowing for scratching and other turntablist moves. Touching the top of the jog wheel in vinyl mode will stop the playback, just like putting your hand on a piece of vinyl to stop it from spinning. When you release the jog wheel, the audio will begin to play from that same position. Unless, of course, you have slip mode enabled. In that case, the playback would start from wherever the playhead would have been had you never touched the wheel. With vinyl mode turned off, you will hear the audio at the playhead looped when the deck is paused. This allows for finding the exact spot you want to add a cue point. Quantize. With this selected, the unit will snap your actions to the grid, such as launching hot cues, loops, etc. This is a handy feature to ensure your actions are landing on the beat grid, though it can be limiting. In some cases, you will want to launch actions off the beat grid and need to disable quantize. Hot cues. These are cue points that you can set at different parts along a track for easy access. These can be set ahead of time in vCase, or you can set them up inside the SDJ-4000. When hotkeys mode is selected, pad will illuminate green to show which of the 8 available hotkeys are assigned. If no hotkey is assigned, pushing the corresponding pad will add a hotkey wherever the playhead is. Holding Shift and pressing the pad will delete the stored hotkey. Once a hotkey is assigned, pressing that pad will launch the track from that designated point. Loop. Loop mode allows you to loop the playback audio. Pads 1 through 8 will determine the length of the loop. Slicer. Slicer chops the playing song into 8 beat sync segments, lighting each pad as they play. You can push any pad to stutter that slice. Just like slip mode, the slice counter is always moving along the playhead. You can manipulate all you want and the playhead will return to its correct position when released. Roll. Roll creates a momentary loop that repeats as long as the pad is held. Pads 1 through 8 will determine how long the loop is, 1 being the shortest and 8 being the longest. Slip mode is automatically engaged when in roll mode. Sampler and sample bank modes allow you to record and play back samples. Be on the lookout for another tutorial video soon that will go into further detail on how to use the samplers. Loop Slicer works just like Slicer, except the same section will loop until you exit that mode. Key play. This groundbreaking feature allows you to change the key in musical mode that your track is playing in. You can use this to match the key of another song so they do not clash, or just to change a song's feel or mood in a creative way. You won't find this feature on most of the standalone players available on the DJ market. Cue versus play. Understanding the difference between the cue and play buttons will benefit your DJing. When you load a track, a cue point is automatically placed at the first downbeat. If auto cue setting is on, that is, be on the lookout for a video detailing all the SDJ-4000 settings coming soon. Pressing the cue button will play the track from the cue point as long as you hold the button down. When released, playhead will return to the cue point. Pressing play will play or pause the track wherever the playhead is, and pressing and holding cue, then pressing play will allow you to play from the cue point and lets the audio continue playing. This is helpful for pre-queuing up a track and making sure your cue will drop as planned. You'll see a lot of DJs tapping the cue button in rhythm with the song that is playing so they can find the groove. Each deck is equipped with a super responsive full-size jog wheel. This can be utilized for scratching or nudging your tracks into sync. As mentioned earlier, vinyl mode will determine how the jog wheel functions. When in vinyl mode, the jog wheel will act just like a turntable platter. The upper left-hand side of the SDJ-4000 houses the microphone controls. Mic 1 1/4" and Mic 2 XLR inputs can be adjusted and EQ'd here, and the on button will toggle the mics on and off. The SDJ-4000 can also be used as a MIDI controller for your favorite DJ software. Pressing the MIDI button twice will enter full MIDI mode. Load 1 and Load 2 buttons will enter Deck 1 or Deck 2 MIDI mode, allowing for one deck to control software while the rest of the unit remains standalone. More on MIDI controller functionality in the video linked below. USB record. You can record your sets directly to USB using the onboard recorder. With the USB inserted into slot 2, press the USB record button to begin recording. USB record button will flash while recording, and then press again to end the recording. Your recordings will be saved as a 44.1 kHz 16-bit WAV file on your USB stick. Pressing the settings button will allow you to open the settings menu, allowing you to customize the user experience to fit your personal DJing needs. We will go over all the SDJ-4000 settings in a separate video. We are very excited to have this product out in the world, and we'd love to hear your feedback. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more tutorials, and keep an eye on our social pages for more demos, live streams, etc. in the near future. Until then, be safe and keep rocking.